JPMorgan, Barclays, Citigroup are amongst 5 banks fined a combined total of 1.07 billion euros by European Union regulators for taking part in 2 cartels in the spot foreign exchange market for 11 currencies. Well, our Bloomberg reporter Aoife White joins us now from Brussels. Aoife, you've been poring over this and you've been looking into it in depth. How much is this legacy? So this is something that is a reminder that actually bankers and banks are at risk at being fined, but it shouldn't be a problem going forward.
No, this is quite an old cartel. I mean, this is behavior that goes back about 5 years. We saw authorities in the US fine banks in 2015. So in some ways, this is the end of a headache for banks. They knew this was hanging over them. This is a settlement, so they knew what was coming. They agreed to this. They got lower fines for settling with the European authorities. There's one bank we're still waiting for in the case, Credit Suisse, which wasn't fined today, hasn't settled the case. But beyond that, we're in a position where this is finally behind these banks, especially since we've seen so many penalties over the last decade.
Yeah, if I was going to ask about the other penalties, how many more fines are we expecting on other things?
Well, we're looking at some new cartels. We're looking at bond cartels. There's one for SSA, there's one for Eurozone bonds, but they seem to be fairly early. In that the banks have only recently been charged. We saw one in December and one a couple of months ago. We see another one in FX options trading, which is very early stage. So there are new things out there, but I think the shock wave that we saw with the Euribor, LIBOR case is something that those big fines do seem to be in the past.
Evie, October 26th of last year, these regulators were absolutely crushed by a federal jury in New York. Ashton, Ramachandani, and Usher all were found not guilty. Is this extortion? Are the banks simply paying the fine so these regulators will go away?
These are settlements, so the banks have agreed to pay the fine.
Agreed.
So to a certain extent, the fact that the traders haven't been were acquitted.
The traders were acquitted, right?
Yes, the traders were acquitted in a New York jury. And as far as we know, the UK had looked at it but hasn't taken a case.
Wait a minute. If the traders were acquitted, what did the banks do wrong?
Well, the accusation here is a little bit different because it's about collusion, and it is a case where the banks have admitted liability for colluding together, that this behavior happened, that there was collusion, that they exchanged information that they should not have exchanged. So sometimes it can be about the type of legal, the burden, what they're looking for in different cases. This is a cartel, it's an antitrust collusion, this exchange of information that shouldn't have happened did happen. You're not supposed to tell your rivals what you're doing.
Yeah, so Aoife, just to be clear, this goes back to the chat rooms, right? There were chat rooms amongst, traded from this bank and that bank, and one is saying, well, my client did this, and so that's what we're talking about in terms of cartels.
Yes, this came from a Bloomberg News report in 2013 that these kind of chat rooms were swapping information on trades and on trading strategies.